All right, we are decommissioning our Presonus 16.4.2 and we are replacing this with a Presonus StudioLive 32SC. I wanted to try to find a smaller frame console to use for the smaller input events that we do, and the 32SC came to mind just because we already have some Presonus products. We know how to use them. All right, it's a 32 channel console, and we can look at 16 of the inputs at a time, and we can switch pages. There's the full 32, and then we can go one other page over that looks at the effects. It's got the same type of aux sub and matrix setup as the full-size console. It's got the 4 effects engines. Everything about this is nearly identical to the large frame consoles that we have. What this does not have is mute groups. It's got 16 analog inputs on the back. If we wanted to get the full 32 channels out of it, we can use the network port on it with a stage box. It's got 6 XLR aux outputs, but we also have 4 other aux outputs using the 1/4 inch. And in something like this, we would have a converter that does from the 1/4 inch to XLR. I'm not much of a fan of having to push buttons all the time to switch a layer to look at something. This is not bad at all for having to select different things on it, because just like on the large console, you're pretty much maybe only one button away from whatever you need to look at. For example, the mixes, that's an aux mix, one button away, another aux mix. Now, some time ago, mixing for another band on some house gear, they had a Behringer X32 compact. The console did fine, but when it came to adjusting the monitors, monitor send, that was, in my opinion, very problematic when it came to the workflow. So the workflow on the Presonus console, as well as our Allen Heath QU series, I think the workflow is excellent. But on that Behringer, I said the console did fine, but accessing a monitor send on it took about 4 pushes of different buttons just to access the monitors. And for those of you who may be using a Behringer X32 compact, just please post in there, you know, did I do something wrong? Am I using that console incorrectly? But what I had to do to access the monitor sends on it was, this is off the top of my head here, I had to push a bus button that was like bus 1 through 8, and then once that came up, then I had to push a monitor send, the one that I wanted to change the levels on, the input levels on. So I pushed that button, and then I had to push another button called, I believe it was called sends on faders. And then once that was done, I came over to the other side of the console and I had to push which layer that I needed to access for the particular monitor, the particular channel that needed to be sent to the monitor send. And then when I was done with that, if I recall right, I had to push the sends on faders again to disable that. It was just a huge amount of button pushing just to get to the monitors. And I'm going to take that, my experience with that Behringer, and compare it with this Presonus as well as our Allen Heath, where you're just one button away. And here we are at the monitors. So the Behringer board did fine, but accessing the monitors was, in my opinion, a bit problematic. Yeah, just please post something in the comment if there's a shorter way to get to the monitors on a Behringer, or if there's just an easier way of doing it than what I was doing. So we are moving to a full digital solution for some shows. This is the NSB 32.16 from Presonus. It's 32 inputs with 16 outputs. Okay, this is a drive rack PA, which if we have to end up doing biamping at an event using a digital solution here, we'll need to keep the drive rack at the stage. So that's why it's sharing the same rack. Okay, this is a UPS for this rack of gear, as well as whatever monitor console may need to be connected to it. And as I've said in past videos, this UPS is not here to maintain or run the whole sound system. It's just to provide stability for all the electronics in this rack, as well as any console connected to it. Okay, and this top unit here is just a regular PDU with LED lights in it. This is the back of the digital stage box. This holds an RJ45, which basically it should be that easy. However, I do not recommend using cables like this. There are some cables that are specifically designed for this, which is an Ethercon. It sits in there much more secure than a regular RJ45 connection. I do have Presonus's, their 5-port switch. We would use this if we had a monitor set up. Primary connection on here, this would come out and connect into the switch. And then the console, let's say the front of house console, and then a monitor console would be connected here. All right, these cables may look alike, and they sort of do, but they are different. This is an Ethercon. This is our regular XLR microphone. So we need to be using this one to do all the networking. All right, let's get a simple network set up. Okay, we're going to use our primary. Should be about it. All right, let's get our front house connection set up, and we're going to use number 15 on an output. This is going to feed front of house. That is going to be for monitors. We're going to use, let's say, channel, well, we'll just pick channel 3 for an input. We've got our input. This is monitor 1, even though it says monitor 4 on it. We're just using this for monitor 1. And front of house is going to be coming out of here. All right, this is going to be our front of house. Just using our Yamaha DSR 115s for this little test. Our other one here at the bottom, that's going to be for the monitors. Let's see. Okay, so there are a lot of videos on YouTube that show how to sort of set this stuff up, but they show in a very basic kind of setup to get things going. But I wanted to take that a little bit further because there may be a couple of gotchas in here that they don't discuss in the video. And also, it's very important here that, let's see, where is, let's see, firmware. We're running firmware 2.7.0.92826. And that can be very important, especially if you are watching this video and you've got a console like this. Some of the stuff on here may not appear the same way on older versions of the firmware. Take a look at an example. Now this box over here says remote I/O setup. This box used to say stage box setup, but with the firmware that's on it, remote I/O setup is for the stage box, but it's also when you connect other Presonus consoles to the AVB network. You can actually get streams from other consoles. So this is why it's important that yet you're aware of what the firmware is of the video that you're watching. All right, so let's work on getting this set up. And what we're going to do is, the green light indicates that there is a connection between this console and the stage box. A green light is good here on the console. However, a green light is, it's good because it shows there's a connection, but there's no clocking and there's no communication between the NSB stage box and the console. So we're going to work on that because that green light should actually turn blue. So even though it's green over here, which is good, over here, not so good just yet. What we're going to do is set up the outputs for this in relation to the NSB stage box. So the first set of 8 that we need to do, this is going to be an AVB sends. It's not actually a send 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. It's a different set of send numbers, and 41 through 48, and our next group of 8 should be, was it 49? Yeah, 49 through 56. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, I'm going to push the apply here, and then in a minute you should see that green light turn blue, and it just takes a few seconds. So we're going to do apply, and then the green light down there should turn blue. And we're going to wait here in real time. Okay, there we go. So now this console, it's now clocking with the NSB stage box. Let's get the input streams from the NSB box. Okay, it says NSB 32.16. That's what it sees on the network, and it's going to be sends 1 through 8. So all we got to do is when we go through here, is just assign the correct sends for the input stream over here. So our input streams 1 through 8. For here on the console, we're going to select coming from the NSB sends 1 through 8. As you can see, that's all you got to do. 9 through 16, 17 through 24, and 25 through 32. You see something here. It's the same sends, but you see a GC next to it. That is for gain compensation, which I'll explain in another video. Because when we're only connecting one console to a stage box, we don't need to worry about the gain compensation. This comes in when you connect more than one console to a single stage box. Now the last thing we're going to look at is the digital patching. Now what I'm looking at over here is in the assigned source, and what I'm looking for is mix 15 All right, here's mix 15 and 16. What I'm going to do is set these to be the main left. We don't do stereo in our shows, so that's why I'm not assigning anything to the right. Everything's going to be to the left. So I'm going to select AVB mix 15. Let me select my sources. I'm going to go down and select main left. And just for the heck of it, in case I need to send another front of house feed, I'm going to set mix 16 also to be main left. Many times you don't need to worry about setting up an aux mix, signing it to its output. A lot of the stuff is already done. Okay, on the input source, everything is set to analog, which is what that symbol is an XLR cable. So what we want to do is we can go through and select that we want those channels, to be on the network. Now, there is actually an easier way of doing this. This is the input sources here. It's set to analog. So I've got this selected here. All I got to do is push this button here of network. Now network is selected. Now this is pretty nice. You can just select whatever your input source is. The permissions in controlling the gain level for the NSB stage box is usually handled by the front of house console. So, but because we only have one console here, it knows that it's going to be a StudioLive 32 SC. As well as whoever has control over the permissions of the stage box also controls the phantom power. So right down here, I'm going to turn on some phantom power. I'm going to select channel 4 here, and then I'm going to turn on phantom power. And as you can tell, a red light came on. So that means this console has control of the gain as well as the phantom power. All right, so let's take a look at the on the patching here, and this has to do with the AVB sends that we set up earlier. We couldn't use sends 1 through 8 or 9 through 16 in the AVB numbering scheme. We have to use a different set of sends. So going through this, I believe the first AVB sends that we had was 41 through 48. Let's take a look here. As you can tell, AVB 41 is associated with mix output number 1, and it goes on down to the aux mixes. So 41 through 48 is the first set of 8 aux mixes, and when we get to 49 through 56, which is right here, this is the second set of 8 aux sends. So AVB 55, if you remember, we had set this up for main left, and 56 for, also for main left. This is why we have to use the AVB numbering instead of the thinking of it in the analog world of, hey, I've got 16 outputs, why not 1 through 16? The 1 through 16 is related to AVB 41 through 56. All right, so we're all hooked up and ready to go. Let's, what do I use here? 3? Yeah, we're gonna use channel 3. Test 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. All right, that's good. We got signal coming in. Test 1, 2. Now we're just going to route it out the main output, and as you can tell, it's set to main. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. All right, and that's the main output. So this works. All right, we're gonna take down the main output, and let's take a look. What do I say? Mix 1. Check 1, 2. Let me turn up the. This is the monitor now. Check 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. So I think you can hear it sort of muffled. It's that bottom speaker. It's actually shooting into the wall and back into the enclosed area, so it's not going to be too loud. Check 1, 2, 2. All right, that looks good. We can go back to our main mix. Check 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. All right. All right, so one of the things that they don't mention in a lot of the other videos that are floating around about setting up digital solutions on these consoles. So let's take a look at Talkback. Now I've got a mic here, and I'm going to connect it into the Talkback port. Even though you're running digital, there's still a good chance you're going to have some kind of cabling plugged in the back of here to support other inputs. All right, so what we're going to do is, let's see here. Okay, let's pick aux 1 first, because that's what we are connected to. I'm going to select mix 1. There we go. Okay, now we're looking at the monitors here. So we're just going to push our talk button. Test 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, this is a Talkback. It is, it's analog coming into the board, but it's being sent out digitally through the stage box and over to the speaker. So, but here is also, what if we want to make an announcement in the front of house PA? So let's go back to our Talkback, and I've got aux 1. Let's just turn that off. Now we've got stuff routed out aux 15 and 16. Now if I push 15, what am I connected to? Actually I'm connected to 16. There we go. 222. I'm turning up the aux 16 volume. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Nothing. Nothing's going on. It's because internally, the talkback has been routed to the main. So what's happening over here is that because I've got it routed out 15 and 16 for main output, for the talkback, this doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is select a main output. That's 1, 2, 2, 2. Now it's coming out of main. So there's not too much you have to do. Just know that you'd have to select main on the talkback and not one of the aux sends. What if you have a CD player or an MP3 player and the band needs, let's say, backing tracks played while they play, or maybe there's some kind of a dance thing going up on stage. And so on a digital console, technically we're not using any of these inputs in the back, but we can change the input source. So what we can do is run something here locally. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to use the last analog input on this console, which is going to be input number 16. So we're going to connect a cable into 16. So all we've got to do to use channel 16 locally is come over here to the input, and we're going to take it out of network and put it into analog. All right, and as soon as we switch to the analog input, we've got a level. Okay, then we just bring it up like we normally would into the front of house. And this is also the method to use if you have somebody who needs to make announcements at the front of house location. Okay, and this also works sending it through the monitor if needed be. All right, well that's about it for showing here the new console that we're going to be using for the smaller count, input count shows. All right, so this NSB box is not going to be used just for this. We'll end up using it also for the larger console on certain shows. Setting this console up is easy to do. All right, thanks for watching.